288 days after they last met on AT&T Stadium's playing surface, the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys get a chance for a rematch after a 20-19 Cowboys Classic win in Week 17 of 2023. We welcome you to Week 6 of 2024. This is Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort. We are live from the Star in Frisco, breaking down the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions, a fun one inside the NFC. We've got Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton with Nicole Hutchison and Nick Eatman live on the sidelines at AT&T Stadium. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. This one has a little extra juice to it, gentlemen, because of the history between these two teams recently. The Cowboys have dominated. Since 2013, they've won 6 straight against the Detroit Lions, looking to make it 7, but the last one was with a little sprinkle of controversy. But Dan Campbell's team ready to rock going into this Week 6 matchup.
Yeah, there might be a little something extra on this game. I'm not really sure if you guys understand what I'm saying. But anyways, the Fighting Dan Campbells are in town once again. Last time, obviously a little bit of controversy. So if I am Dan Campbell, I am preaching to my team, hey, guess what? How about we go out there and do all that we can to ensure that there is no speculation? So the Dallas Cowboys have to make sure that they're ready for that. Get ready for a barn burner and a physical matchup tonight.
You know, this is the first true test of the Cowboys playing a complete team. This is a good offensive team. This is a solid defensive team. They got nice special teams. This is the most complete team to date. Cowboys will be judged off of this.
No, and that's a great point, because this is a Lions team that, of course, went to the NFC Championship game last year, lost in that NFC title game to the San Francisco 49ers. But you could argue this team is better and more complete than they were last year. And a big part of that has been the way that Jared Goff has been throwing the football. I mean, Jared Goff specifically hasn't thrown an incomplete pass since Week 3. I mean, what have they been up to? I mean, the fact that he goes 18 of 18 against the Seattle Seahawks. He's been uber efficient throughout the year, a league leader in multiple efficiency categories. But Isaiah, what has Jared Goff done special this year?
Well, Jared Goff is being coddled by a nice little Snuggie blanket right now, and that is his offensive line. Hey, everybody loves a nice little Snuggie. He's about to start getting cold outside. So Jared Goff gets to sit behind these guys. They have invested 3 first-round picks into this offensive line. 3 out of the 5 guys up front are protecting him. Not only that, they gave him a handful of running backs that are both dogs, both running the ball and catching the ball. And then they gave him a tight end and 3 solid receivers. He has the perfect matchup, or not the perfect matchup, but the perfect ingredients to be successful. They're not asking him to do anything outside of himself. They're just asking him to just not mess up.
Now, I want to reinforce what he just said. They're asking him to be safe with the football, to make the right decisions, to believe what you see. Don't overextend. Don't overextend yourself. He is a play-action pass quarterback, and it all depends on what those running backs are doing.
How is that different from what we've seen out of this Detroit offense in the past? Because, I mean, he had success in L.A. He went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. A lot of people forget that. I mean, he was a good quarterback, starting caliber quarterback. But now that he's in Detroit, why does it work differently?
Yeah, I just think that he's never been a guy that really been a turnover magnet, right? And he's always been what we quote-unquote call a game manager. The term gets overutilized a lot. But when you start talking about what they have done to make sure that this offense has what it needs to be successful, this is how you draw it up. You invest in your offensive line, so no matter what style of offense you want to play, you can be dominant in the trenches, running the ball and passing the ball. Once you have solidified the offensive line, then you go to the running backs. How can we ensure that we can keep this ball and maintain the time of possession at all times, regardless of the opponent? Well, O-line, and then obviously the running backs, hand it to 2 guys. And then you go out there and you give him all the receivers. So he has what he needs. He doesn't have to do much outside of being efficient. They're not asking him to be a playmaker because they've surrounded him with playmakers.
And the good thing about it is the fact that Dallas does have a guy that knows how to read Jared Goff specifically. Jordan Lewis, who hasn't just had success against Jared Goff, he's been good against nearly anybody this season, stepping up as a leader on this defense. Nate, how much has Jordan Lewis really elevated his game over the last couple of years, and how has he established himself as a leader in that unit?
He's always been hard-nosed. He's always been a little pit bull. That's what they call him over there, a little pit bull. He's always been that guy, and it's been bigger guys, DeMarcus Lawrence, and now that we have Parsons, always been bigger guys, but now that these guys are out, he's starting to assert himself. That's a true leader, knowing when and what to say and how to say it. He pays attention to the small things, the details, and that's what the guys like about him.
Yeah, I think when you start talking about Jordan Lewis, you talk about somebody who's just a contributor at all times. Jordan Lewis is one of the most undervalued, underappreciated players outside of this organization. Trust me, the organization values him greatly. But those on the outside, they don't really see him because he gets overshadowed by the big name guys. He gets overshadowed by the contracts of the Micah Parsons of the league. You start talking about Trayvon Diggs. These guys kind of take a lot of the limelight away from him. When you start talking about the guy who makes a contribution and is an absolute dog for this team, both defensively in terms of making plays when the ball's in the air and being willing and capable to come up to stop the run, this is your guy. He's been consistent for a number of years. They need to ensure that they can try to find a way to maintain him, but he is a huge contributor to what they do defensively for the Dallas Cowboys.
He had a big matchup last week against George Pickens. He's got another one this week against the Monroe St. Brown. Here's what he said to the media earlier in the week.
I just want to go out there and play good ball, honestly. So, I mean, if he bring the fight to me, then that's what it is. So, but honestly, I just want to go out there and prepare. Because they're a good team. You can't lose your head, go out there and, just try to make it a brawl. But they're a good team. They're really focused. And I feel like they feel like they can win it all this year. So it's definitely going to be a good challenge.
We've got to know how much does that help your game, though? That's who you are. Man. Yeah. Kind of amps you up and get you to play your best.
Yeah, I just love football, man. I just love to compete, man. And whenever somebody wants to, I guess be my antagonist, I don't like that. So
we've gotten to see your toughness for years and years here, but does it mean something for you to sort of display that on a national stage like you did?
I've been doing this since I've been little. So, I mean, it don't matter who I play, where I play at, this is how I play ball.
You talked a lot about details. After losing to the Saints, losing to the Ravens, there's a lot of frustration. You talk about details in practice, keying on details in games. 2 wins in a row, stopping the run. How are you seeing those details and the progression in that kind of thing?
Honestly, just looking at the film and, preparing, honestly, every single day. And that's what it comes down to, preparing like it's your last game, like it's a Super Bowl. So we got to do that every single game and understand that, it's not a gimme. Nothing's a gimme in this league. You got to go out there and prepare like it's your last game.
Oh, Jordan Lewis, he loves that matchup possibility. He loves the competitive nature. And you're going to see that again against a team that not only does he have a couple of picks against, but one of those interceptions was the play that he was injured on that kept him out for months at a time. It was his major injury. So something to keep an eye on moving into this matchup between the Cowboys and the Lions. We've got plenty to ask Nick Eatman about this week because there's a lot happening both on and off the field for the Cowboys. And Nick, as we welcome you in on the sidelines at AT&T Stadium, I got to start things off. Eric Kendricks out today with an injury. They were reporting that earlier in the week. How big of a lapse is that from another leader on that defensive side?
Well, I think you could argue it may be the biggest of them all, just because anytime you're dealing with the middle linebacker, he's the center of attention. He's the leading tackler on the team. Sure, you want the pressure. Sure, you want the interceptions and all that. He's actually the only guy on the team that's got both. He's got a sack and an interception this year, both in that Cleveland game, and that was his first game with the Cowboys. He really set the tone for the season. So they're going to miss him big time in this game. He's the guy that, with Detroit, they're going to run the ball. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to get that done early, and he's the guy that you want to set the tone on the other side. So a big loss, I think, for the Cowboys defense for sure.
Now, whenever it comes to the defensive side, he's not the only one that's out. DeRon Bland out. Kalen Carson also out as well. I mean, this is the second straight week now, maybe even more so, that they had to deal with injuries like that on the defensive side against an offense like Detroit. Where do you feel like they're stretched most out of those 3 levels of defense?
Well, I think the tough part about going up against the Lions and Jared Goff is just how good he is, not only with them running the ball, but how good he is with the play action. And so that puts pressure on everybody, on the secondary, obviously on the linebackers. They have a great tight end in Laporta as well, so covering him is going to be a challenge. And then, of course, with that defensive line and the front 7 just trying to stop that 1-2 punch they have with Gibbs and Montgomery. Just a great offense for all the way around for their team. Speed on the outside, tight end, just as balanced as you could be. So I would say all of them are going to have their hands full in this game, and they all have a level that have an injury. Obviously with the linebacker being out, the cornerbacks like you mentioned, and of course every defensive end they've ever had has been banged up and out for this game. It seems like.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They are dealing with some injuries on that side. But let's turn to the offensive side. Who do you feel like has to have their best game of the year if the Cowboys on the offensive side are going to have success against Detroit?
I would say CeeDee Lamb. How about that one? I mean, he just had 227 yards against them last year. Hasn't had a 100-yard game yet this year. They need a playmaker. They need a guy that go out there and be the dude. They've got some other guys, Tolbert and Turpin and Ferguson and all of them, and then wherever running the ball, Rico Dowdle will get in there. But I do think it'll be a situation where you certainly want CeeDee Lamb to be the playmaker that he is, and what better way to do it against Detroit, a team that really had a hard time with him in the last game.
Thank you very much, Nick. We appreciate it. We will talk to you here in a couple of moments as you get to catch up with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones. So Nick Eatman joining us on the sideline at AT&T Stadium. And this is a matchup, again, where the Cowboys have missing pieces all over the place. We just talked about it with guys like Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence. They were going to miss a lot of those guys, and they need guys like that against the Detroit Lions. Here's the inactive list and what they have coming up in terms of the guys that are out. And we mentioned Micah, Kalen Carson, Deuce Vaughn inactive for the second straight week as well. I know, Isaiah, you thought he could play a role in this matchup. The big one, though, is Eric Kendricks on that defense. Not having him is a huge loss to this team.
Eric Kendricks is definitely the biggest loss on that front outside of, obviously, Micah Parsons that we've been missing. But you talk about what he means to this team. He is the green dot, right? For those that don't understand what that means, he is the quarterback of the defense. He is the one who was brought in to instill on the field this Mike Zimmer defense. So when everybody is confused and lost and trying to figure out exactly what's going on, he's the guy that everybody turns to for answers. Well, now all of a sudden that man has been removed from the field. Now who's your guy that steps up and is the vocal leader? Who is the guy who knows this defense in and out, who can obviously respond back to what's going on here? So I'm not sure what it was. I know there's some plays last week I saw on film where Chauncey Golson stepped up on the defensive line and was vocal and got the guys lined up properly. But as you go through an entirety of a game, I'm not sure who that guy's going to be. But most likely it's going to be Malik Hooker or somebody like that that's able to roll down and have an impact.
When you lose a guy like that, man, that's a big impact. They just started finding their strides these last few games against New York and Pittsburgh. And for him to go out, that leaves a void. That leaves the young guy, Marifal, and it may bring in Damone Clark as your other guys at linebacker. But these guys have to continue to play that next man up role.
Maris Leofow on the
Thank
second
you.
level.
Thank you.
Hey, I love it. You're just combining things. You're trying to make it more efficient. I like it. I'm here with it. Here's the thing, though. He might not be the only one that is asked to step up. And our fan question this week for Cowboys Pregame Live, we do this every week, by the way. If you want to submit a fan question, film it. Send it to us. We'll get it at some point throughout the week. Please start sending in your fan questions. This is from Irene in Falls Church, Virginia. Never been to Falls Church. I've been to Virginia. Here's what she had to ask the group.
Hi, guys. This is Irene in Falls Church, Virginia. Was wondering how we're going to deal with the injuries at linebacker right now, especially against a team that has not one but two great running backs. Last year, Dan Quinn got really creative with it because of necessity, and we had Marquise Bell valiantly playing out of position and doing his best. Was wondering, hey, we haven't seen him on the field very much in his safety position. Could this be a chance for him to get back on the field, at least in some packages, and help us out a bit as we kind of weather the storm?
Appreciate that, Irene. It is a question because Marquise Bell, 163 of his 197 snaps last year were in the box as a linebacker. So, Isaiah, do you feel like that's an option today?
It's an option, but I don't think it's one that Coach Zimmer is going to explore. I don't think that he's Dora the Explorer in this regard. I think that he likes true linebackers. I just think that's his style. That doesn't mean that Marquise Bell could not be effective in this scheme or in that role, because we've seen him be that in the past. Led the team last year, obviously, in tackles. But I think that what you're going to see is you're going to see Damone Clark not only be on special teams, but you're going to see him go back to his duties as linebacker. I think that you're going to see Buddy Johnson, somebody, possibly who can come up and make some plays as well, who's been a special teams guy for this team. So I think you're going to see Maris Leofow, I think, and DeMarvion Overshawn. I think those are going to be the four guys that you most likely will see in that rotation. And if there are some more injuries that exist, then you might see a Marquise Bell.
I agree with you. You will not see Marquise Bell at linebacker unless it's a nickel or a dime situation. They have a special player that they think that he can cover a little bit better than the other guys, but Coach Zim believes in the guys that Isaiah just spoke on.
Do you feel like he deserves more playing time, though? Because Irene's right. He hasn't really seen a ton of snaps at the safety spot. It's been mostly special teams throughout the year.
Yes, but at safety, he's a surefire tackle. He's on all special teams. I think he should be given him more of a chance to play that safety position. He's a sure tackler. You ain't got to, and he hits hard, so they should give him all understanding. And plus, he's a Florida A&M Rattler.
The Rattler. Listen up. This is a perfect example. Marquise Bell is of a player that can make plays that you know is a very productive player. Led the Dallas Cowboys in tackles last year, but can't see the field this year. It's all about scheme in this league. It is all about the coordinator that you're playing for. It's all about the scheme that they instill. If you don't fit in their scheme, you don't fit on the field. And it has nothing to do with his capabilities, abilities, skill sets, attributes, none of those things. This dude can be a huge contributor for this defense, but he doesn't fit the defensive coordinator scheme. So he's the odd man out.
It's well said, and I love how you were very technical about everything, and your point is completely taken, but I shouldn't have started with the FAMU guy on that question and talking about Marquise Bell and his fellow Rattler here. I love it. I love it. All right, we've got some great things coming up here in Cowboys pregame live. David Montgomery and company are going to stretch this defense very thin. It's a 1-2 punch and a new contract for Montgomery. How does Dallas defend the run? Then on the opposite side, Jaylen Tolbert had a phenomenal game last week against Pittsburgh. How much are they going to need him again today to try and test this defense of the Detroit Lions that has given up some big plays throughout the year? And then Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions, is 0-3 against the Cowboys, a team that he once played against and a team that he still might have some emotions around as a former player in Dallas.
This is Dan Campbell. There's only 3 things I like to do: hunt, fish, and watch the Dallas Cowboys channel. You know, I'm Texas through and through. I will be for the rest of my life. And to be able to play for the Dallas Cowboys, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's one of the first things that comes to mind when you think of the state of Texas is the Dallas Cowboys and just the prestige and, you know, the program and just the management, you know, the Joneses and Coach Parcells. And, I mean, it's perfect. It really is. And I'm one of the lucky ones, and I'm blessed, really. I shouldn't say lucky. I'm blessed is what I am. And, man, it couldn't be better. And I want to play here as long as I can play here, as long as I can play, period. You want to know, does my dad, is he proud of this hair? No, he's not. He's not proud of this. Does my mom like the hair? No, she doesn't, but I have it right now. I think Coach Parcells loves it, though. He made a comment the other day about how he just thought it really looked good and that I'd take good care of it. I'll tell you, I got a good story for you that happened the other day. You want to know what I'm like? I went in and some guy said, hey, it's a little kid too, you know, and the little boy says, hey, Dan, you know, can I get an autograph? You know, he recognized me, and I just turned around and I said, hey, kid, get away from me. All right, it's a joke. Hey, do you think I was going somewhere else with that?
Yeah, we did. We did think you were going somewhere else with that, Dan Campbell. Lots of great memories in Dallas, but that's just the thing. Memories are memories, and I have a slight feeling, just a tiny bit of a feeling, he doesn't feel that same love for this organization as he once did back in the day. But you could probably say the same thing at times between former players, right?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome content. That was
great. You think he rocked the 86 better than you rocked the 86 back in the day?
Listen up, man. I'm sure his stat line was better than my stat line, but either way, he's a head coach right now, and I'm sitting at an analyst desk.
Who had the best hair, though, out of the group?
Me, hands down.
You think so? Parcells said he liked it.
I don't care what Parcells said. Did you see these long, luxurious locks? I mean,
all right. Nate, what do you think? You're the deciding party here.
You know what I like about Coach Campbell is he's grown in more ways than one. Now he don't have that long stringy hair. He is a little bit more tighter with his thing, and his voice went from that little squeaky thing we just heard to, fellas, let's go. The guy checked in. You know, his whole voice and demeanor is different. So I love you, Dan Campbell, and I'm riding with my ball over here to my left.
Yeah, there you go. I agree. You're right, though. He has taken over this Detroit team, a franchise that was in shambles at times throughout the last couple of decades, and he has absolutely made them a contender. Why is that the case? How has he built the Lions into the culture of winning that they are today?
It's all about culture and accountability. I mean, you are an embodiment. You embody what your head coach is. That's the reality of the matter. And Dan Campbell, as you just saw right there, he's gritty, right? He's hardcore. He's blue collar. He's everything that the city of Detroit represents. Yeah. And he holds those guys accountable. He took it upon himself when he first took that job, and he kept telling everybody, we're close. We're building this thing. We're doing it the right way. And he kept holding himself accountable. He held his staff accountable. He held his players accountable. And when players see that, there's nothing else you can do but respond. And then him in the front office is continue to add the pieces necessary to put together one heck of a roster. He put together his coaching staff, and now you see the product that's on the field today.
He's true. What you see is what you get. I mean, I've got a little insight on him about when he first hit Detroit. First thing he did was made himself known to everybody in the building, even the janitor. And when you do that right there, you're true. You're trying to change it starting from the bottom to the top. You're trying to change how people think and what they say about you. And he talked to his players with honesty and with the right tone of voice. So when he come at them in a hard way, they know it's out of love and honesty. And boy, when you get players going that way, you got a hell of a thing going.
Based off of that, I mean, this is a day and age where information and politics and all sorts of really just the visuals are so important in this day and age because of social media, because of media in general. Why is it important to be real with this generation of NFL players? Because there's a lot of unreal that is surrounding them.
Because all you need is for one guy on your team and one of those guys to be one of your leaders to say, hey, coach ain't coming to me right, or coach promised me this, and he said that, and all of a sudden I'm seeing something different, especially with this social media. You start to lose your team one guy at a time, and then all of a sudden it becomes a cancer. But if you got a culture, like Isaiah said, if you got a culture in place, and that culture starts with the honesty and me being real and who I am and what you have to do to maintain your position on this team, players can buy into that.
I would say transparency and sensitivity.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that I would really kind of harp on. The transparency, because of what you just heard my guy Nate talk about, is the fact that there's so much information out there, and a lot of it is disinformation. So if I'm going to gather information regardless, every time I pick up my phone, I'd rather get my information from the source. Right? So be the head coach, be the transparent person that can clearly communicate exactly what your morals are, your expectations are to me. And then the sensitivity factor. Well, people are more sensitive today. These players are, you can call it whatever you want, whatever word makes you feel better, but they're sensitive because of the information and because everybody has access to them now. Yeah. Everybody can comment. Everybody has an opinion, and it's always going to be voiced. So they're a lot more sensitive to what people on the outside are saying. If they don't have a coach that can keep it real with them, be transparent, and care for them at a deep level, then they're going to be easily swayed.
I know this is the Cowboys pregame show, but there's a lot of respect around the league for what Dan Campbell has done with that organization in Detroit. And you're going to see that again today. There's going to be a level of physicality. There's going to be a level of grit from this football team that's going to challenge the guys from Dallas today. It's going to be a physical, tough football game, and it'll start very early from Dan Campbell's bunch. That's something that I expect to see from Detroit today. Let's see what Dak Prescott expects to see from the Detroit Lions as they face each other for the first time this year, and maybe not for the last time.
I expect them to come out with the personality of the same team that they've been. I mean, credit to their coach, Dan Campbell. Credit to their roster. I mean, you look at them, you watch the way that they play, aggressive, physical guys that looks like love the game, play with a lot of passion. Knowing Goff personally, the competitor that he is, I don't think it's necessarily about a vengeance from last week as much as that's who they are, and they're the character of their team, which is a great challenge for us, and excited to go head-to-head with them.
Kind of on that note, teams that have played them are winless the next week. Is there an added toughness factor into this kind of battle against a team like that?
We're going on a bye, so we're going to get this win and go enjoy the bye and then figure it out after that.
You know, you talk about the offense and how well they've gone. I know you always want to score touchdowns, but how important it is in this game to finish in the end zone and score touchdowns to keep up with this offense? Yeah, it's very important to score touchdowns. I mean, we've been able to move the ball, but if any other game, knowing how powerful their offense is, we've got to get in the end zone. We've got to give Aubrey a break, whether it be on the field goals, we can kick extra points all day, but we've got to put pressure on these guys. Going back and watching the game last year, missed once again some opportunities. Interception for me early, fumble from CD at the goal line. That would have given us a few more touchdowns and had a whole different shape on the game that we've got to capitalize on those opportunities. And coming off a game where we're once again able to move the ball and get down there,
we've got a good plan to cap it off and put it in the end zone.
Well, if anybody knows how to play well against the Detroit Lions, it is Dak Prescott. 5-0 to start his career. Of course, the Cowboys have not lost to the Lions since 2013, and Dak's been a big part of that. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's about as good of a passer touchdown to interception ratio that you are going to have against the team. Nate, what does he have to do today to continue that success against this Lions defense?
We have to build up a running game. We have to do it early and often, man, and then give Dak a chance to do the play-action pass. We have to take advantage of Jake Ferguson. He's been missing in our offense. We have to go out and give this kid every opportunity to catch the ball and give Dak that confidence that he needs. So at the end of the game, when they are up or down by 3 points, they can take it over.
Dak just has to trust. He has to trust his guys that are not named CeeDee Lamb. That's Jake Ferguson. That is Jaylen Tolbert. That is Devontae Turpin. That's Jalen Brooks. That's Hunter Lipke. Trust all the guys on the depth chart that haven't necessarily had the body of work that need to become primetime contributors for this offense. That's what Dak needs to do. Yes, they need to have a running game. We say that every single week because of the type of quarterback Dak is. That helps. But the reality is this is not a very good secondary of the Detroit Lions. As long as he has protection, he can pick these guys apart if he trusts his guys and anticipates these throws instead of waiting until they're open.
And so you mentioned it. You got to trust everybody that's on the roster. You got to trust everybody around. But you also got to find your best guy. You got to find CeeDee Lamb. And early in the season, they've been finding CeeDee Lamb, or at least early in the game. Last year, he had 227 yards, 13 receptions, an incredible matchup against the Lions. He hasn't come close to that this year, yet to have a 100-yard receiving game. How important is it, Isaiah, for CeeDee, your top wide receiver? I get what you're saying about the guys underneath them, but how does your star step up in a game like this?
He steps up by putting him in a situation to be successful. If you line him up on the outside, I don't care left side, right side, as long as he's outside the numbers, it's going to be very easy for them to double team him. It's going to be easy for them to come up and disrupt him. They can press a guy with the cornerback. They can put a safety over the top, and they can run a linebacker back underneath them. They can create a triangle offense, per se, against or a triangle defense against CeeDee Lamb. So they can make it very difficult for him to get the ball. But as soon as you're able to start dispersing the ball around to your other weapons offensively, and they can actually have an impact, right, getting some yards after catch, like guys like Devontae Turpin, who can make big splash plays, and you get him out there who could literally threaten the defense. Now all of a sudden that pressure gets alleviated. Now they have to sway that defense a little bit towards some of the other guys, and now it frees up your guy, CeeDee Lamb.
You rarely hear me say this. Coach McCarthy, play caller, head coach, it is your job to get him open. You have to do everything in your power. That means throwing the ball to other guys a little bit more earlier so he can be effective at the end of the game. That is your job, Coach McCarthy. We know from last year, the year before, the type of player that this guy is. It should never be any game. It's just my feeling. It should be never any game where he's not effective in the second half of the game.
So whose problem is it, the fact that CeeDee Lamb hasn't been making that impact? Is that on Coach? Is it on Dak? Is it on CeeDee? Where does the blame lie?
It lies everywhere. It lies everywhere. I mean, you go back to last game, CeeDee and Dak were not on the same accord. They were not. CeeDee was running routes that Dak thought he was not running, or whatever, vice versa. Dak was throwing into coverages that he shouldn't have been throwing the ball into. So, also CeeDee wasn't being placed in alignments that gave him the best opportunity to win against that particular defense. So it's all three of their faults. CeeDee, Dak, and obviously Coach McCarthy. They all collectively have to do better. Dak is at the top of the league in terms of passing. So let's not act like he's just not having a great season. Yeah. It's just not the season that we expect of him. We've been spoiled. Every single year Dallas is at the top of the league in terms of passing. They are this year too, but that just means that the rest of the league is just not doing very well passing the ball either. Dallas has to get more efficient. They have to get more creative. That's been the one knock that I've had on Coach McCarthy this season versus last year. Is this year it seems like this offense is a lot more simplistic, and I think that's mainly because of the fact that they just might not trust some of their guys lower on the totem pole.
Last week you asked the question, what will it take for CeeDee because he's getting double teamed. And what I said didn't sound good. I say catch the ball. But when you are a great receiver and considered a top-notch receiver, you're going to be in some difficult situations. You're going to be covered. Like last week, Dak threw a bad ball, I thought, into double coverage. Well, you know what? If that had been Mike, nobody would have caught that ball. If it's either I'm going to catch it or no one's going to catch it. And I believe in what I say. CeeDee, when the ball comes to you, there's never time to be lazy. It's never time not to expect it. catch the ball.
Well, and he said that on the sideline at times. It looks like the mindset's there, but the film says something otherwise at times. But he said it. He said, jump balls for. That's what that controversial clip from NBC and Chris Collinsworth was saying, that there was a discrepancy. That's not the case. It was CD talking strategy with Dak. He said, jump ball for, throw the jump ball. I'm there. I'm open. I can get it. That's the kind of mentality you have to have, but you got to be able to convert at the same time. There's another receiver that has been converting like that, and it's one of your favorite guys to talk about. I asked you about Dak Prescott. You went straight to Jake Ferguson, and there's a reason for that, Nate Newton. Why is he such an important element to this offense today?
Every quarterback has a blanket, and this blanket is Ferguson. But this kid is so valuable because he can help in the run game. He helps chip for the tackles, not only our right tackle, but our left tackle as well. What we have to do is let Schoonmaker, a span forward, those guys do a little bit more chipping and bring this guy more into, because he's your intermediate guy. He can get the middle of the field open. And if they allow this guy to get the middle of the field open, then all of a sudden CD becomes a bigger player. Jaylen Tolbert becomes a bigger player. That's your guy. Do not neglect number 87.
You heard the boy, Nate. You heard Nate say don't neglect him. You know why you don't want to neglect him? Because he is your biggest playmaker outside of CeeDee Lamb. That is fact. You might not like the way that sounds, but that is the reality. So if CeeDee Lamb is being double covered or triple covered, the next man that should be on the list in terms of the progression should be Jake Ferguson. And the reason why is because he has mismatches almost every single play. He is outsized, and he can outsize the guys that are going to be covering him, and he has two-way go, meaning that he's usually in the middle of the field and he can go to the right or he can go to the left, meaning these guys don't know which way to go. He can be in position to be successful at all times, and a lot of teams are starting to play single high coverage against the Dallas Cowboys for whatever reason, which means that the seams are open, okay? Right down the hash marks, he can get these big plays if you put him in position to do so.
Do you think he's like one of those thin blankets? Like, is he like a weighted sheet? Is he like an electric blanket?
He's a throw.
You think it's a throw? Like big
you ever
throw
see
blanket?
The Peanuts? But the dude with the blanket is always dust up around it and all that. He's that blanket. Because he can make it happen. He can bring up dust wherever he go. That's who he is, just a smelly blanket.
Stirring up dust.
Yeah.
He's a smelly blanket.
Yeah.
That's what you get, Jake Ferguson. I'm sure he loved that as probably the number one thing he's heard and been called throughout his career. But, yeah, they're going to need him to step up in a big way. Just like Jaylen Tolbert stepped up last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, what a performance it was for Jaylen Tolbert. It was his coming out party as the wide receiver 2. What does he do for an encore this week?
With 2 losses on the season, it was vital for the Cowboys to secure Sunday's win. Yet with key players out, someone was going to have to step up out of the ordinary, and that someone did.
Crossing, it's caught for the touchdown! It's Tolbert! Stays in the game and grabs it for the score! Jaylen Tolbert, the guy who had to step it up because of the injury to Brandon Cooks, comes up with the go-ahead touchdown.
Jaylen Tolbert was a crucial asset in the Cowboys' 20-17 win over the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. With 7 receptions on 10 targets for 87 yards and 1 game-winning touchdown, the third-year wide receiver stock is on the rise. But this is nothing new for Tolbert. In college at South Alabama, Tolbert went from recording only 60 yards in his freshman season to 1,474 yards in his 4th year, leading him to become the first 1,000-plus yard receiver in the program's history.
You know, one of the biggest indicators of where a young receiver is in his, in his flight going through the league is how the quarterback looks to him. You know, when your quarterback comes off his back foot and doesn't even care who's out there, or just when we're playing attack the defense and you don't worry about who's playing where, those are good times. Those are potentially great times. So you can see that Dak has excellent confidence in those guys.
This trust is built on a firm foundation of evident effort and hard work over the years, resulting in acknowledgement from not only Dak and McCarthy, but from the entire team.
Huge on Tolbert, happy for him, and looking forward to next week. It was like a movie. Great play call and great throw from Dak, great catch from JT. Got the win.
Though only time can tell, it does not seem that Tolbert will be slowing down anytime soon, and he seems to think the same.
For this and waiting on my opportunity, waiting on the time where I would be able to, you know, get more offensive snaps or get more targets, whatever it may be. And so, like I say, whenever that moment comes, you got to be able to be ready for it. And I think that's something that we emphasized all week. Obviously, we knew B. Cooks wasn't going to play, but all of the other guys in the room, including, you know, myself, we work hard for this. We're ready for this. So it's just about going out and showing the world. So I'm looking forward to continuing to grow on it and continuing to do the things that I can for this offense and for this team.
Jaylen Tolbert with the game last week that the Dallas Cowboys needed. And I think this week he's probably stepping up in a similar way, or at least they need him to do so against the defense from Detroit that has given up the big play throughout. 50-plus yards and a touchdown for the first time in his career. Nate Newton, how does he get back to that here in Week 6?
Just keep working hard, keep working with Dak. Make sure that you're running the correct routes and being where you're supposed to be. Dak has confidence in you. It started during the training camp, and now he's went through the preseason that you've got all these routes. Now it should be a habit. You know where to be. You know what to do. You got good hands. You got strong hands. Make the plays that need to be played, that need to be made, and you should come out all right. This young guy's up and coming.
Yeah, Jaylen Tolbert's a possession receiver. Let's just make it what it is. I mean, he's a heck of a contributor. If CeeDee Lamb is your big play man, he's your number one receiver, then Jaylen Tolbert is your guy that helps you move the chains. And every so often, he'll make a play down the field or down the sideline that puts you in a good position for a big play. But his expectation has to be for him to simply just move the chains. If you can get a number 2 guy on the right side and you get CeeDee Lamb doing his thing on the left side and you can have the big man Ferguson in the middle, then you are in a good position.
Couple of weapons to look out for the Cowboys side of things. The Lions have weapons of their own, gentlemen, and this is a part of this matchup that is going to be very, very tough for the Cowboys to deal with. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Javonte Williams on the outside. You've got Sam Laporta. All of these guys, Jamison Williams, excuse me, but all of these guys are significant contributors in the pass game. And we talked about Jared Goff a little bit earlier in the show. That's the reason he's had success. That offensive line up front and multiple weapons to throw the football. Who's going to be stretched more thin this week out of that Dallas defense against these matchups?
The safeties.
Really?
All the pressure on the safeties. Yes, old Wilson back there and Hooker. Both of those guys are going to be stretched. Just think back to the New Orleans game, okay? The New Orleans game, what did you have? Yeah, Chris Olave is going to be your number 1 receiver, but really became a possession guy. Yeah. And then you have Rashid Shaheed that was taking you over the top. He was the guy that you had to get out of your back pedal sooner than you wanted to. Otherwise, he'll make you pay in a major way. That is exactly what's going to take place today. Jamison Williams is that guy. He's the guy who wants to stretch the defense. He wants to get that safety out of there, and he wants to create space. If you're a safety and you have to backpedal and then open your hips and turn and run, all of a sudden now you're 25, 30 yards down the field. Well, now you just open up the window of opportunity for Amon-Ra St. Brown, their main receiver. He's their number 1 guy, but he's a possession guy this year. And if you're not guarding him, then you might want to keep an eye on Sam Laporta. These guys have a lot of weapons, and don't forget about Tim Patrick either. He's a heck of a contributor.
Yeah.
Communication is going to be the key. These safeties are going to have to know when to get back, to have to deal with Williamson, or either come up and get with Brown. But communication, when they're when they're going into each other's zone and you're passing guys off, you can't look around 80 yards later and say, hey, I thought you had that guy. You're going to have to come out of the huddle with your pre-snap read, make the correct call, and once you see the formations and all the emotions, you got to make the call and you got to make it loud and clear so everybody on the field can be of one accord.
And I think that stat that we saw a moment ago was a really good indication of how things are working. You saw that Jamison Williams has more yardage than Amon-Ra St. Brown in almost half of the receptions.
Yep.
That's the big play threat. But then you've got possession guys all over that offense that are going to test this defense all the way through. And one of those guys is Sam Laporta. You're getting a great look at Jake Ferguson there. But Sam Laporta has become an elite-level tight end in this league, Nate. Whenever it comes to the safeties and it comes to the middle of that defense, without Eric Kendricks in the fold, how important is it to be on the same page going up against a talent like that?
Just know where he is and understand, that he will try to block, but he's not there for blocking. Last year, I think he had 86 receptions. This guy's there to catch the ball and to hurt the middle of your field and to make and to punish people. Isaiah, how will we handle this cat?
I mean, listen. First of all, it's hard to be very aggressive in regards to Sam Laporta because of Jamison Williams. Understand what you're asking your safeties to do. Yeah. You're asking your safeties to come up and play man-to-man coverage or even zone over the top of Sam Laporta. But if I have a responsibility not only to take him, but I also have the responsibility to be the deepest man on the field, I can no longer do both, right? I can't play Jamison Williams over the top and come down and play Sam Laporta. So it's going to be very important for our second-level defenders. And for those that don't know what that is your linebackers. Your linebackers have to get physical with Sam Laporta off the line of scrimmage. He starts with his hand on the ground majority of the time. That means he is just like an offensive lineman. He has to raise up in order to come off the line of scrimmage. Well, while he's raising up on this Sunday, we need the linebackers to go ahead and hit him while he's down so that he can no longer get a free release and can no longer threaten your safeties, and they can do two jobs at once.
Now, that's what I call pray and play, right? That's what I call it. I mean, I like it. That's how you do it. That's how you have to play. You got to be assignment and alignment sound. We say it all the time on this show, but it's extra important in a matchup like this whenever it comes to the Detroit Lions. That's going to be the toughest test for Mike Zimmer's defense. Coming up later in the show, of course, the Cowboys established the run game with Rico Dowdle and company in that win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. How do they keep that rolling 1 week later? And doing so against this Detroit Lions defense that's led by the NFL sack leader in Aiden Hutchinson. How does he present a challenge both in the passing rush and also as a run stopper off of the edge for the Detroit Lions defense? And then DeMarvion Overshown, he had a big game last week without Eric Kendricks. How does he step into that mold and continue having a great start to the season?
It's just, they got guys everywhere. So basically, like we've been doing these last 2 weeks, just really stand attention to the details. They got a huge trying to get explosive plays. So basically just making sure our eyes where they're supposed to be.
How different is it trying to defend Gibbs and Montgomery and the different styles they bring?
I think it's really just like you're gonna get that type of stuff every week. Just different backs being able to do different things. It's really just like staying locked into your technique, like making sure you do your assignment, and then the rest of the defense will take care of the players when they get the ball as a whole, just rally to them. But basically just making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do on our part.
What would you say is unique to their offense in comparison to who else you've seen so far this season?
Definitely fast on the ball, and they want to get going. They want to keep going, and if it's working, it's going to continue to keep showing up. So I definitely say I don't think their games have shown a lot of how explosive and how much on click their offense really is, but once they're going. So basically eliminating explosive plays, trying to get them to make them drive the field and score in the red zone is what we are playing.
What's it like facing a quarterback who completed every single pass in his last game out like Jared Goff?
It's just, he's a great quarterback. That's all we can say about Jared Goff. He's a great quarterback. He's going to find his open receivers. They usually have 5 out for him so he can find somebody and just let his receivers and athletes work. So basically just staying in our pass jobs, definitely just got to stay detailed and oriented.
So this Dallas defense is quite depleted. There are multiple guys missing. But the Cowboys are important on the defensive side. And as you can see, Mike Zimmer's defense in the wins have been much better in the losses. Not a surprise. That's pretty much how it goes. The defense element wins championships, right? I mean, that's kind of what we've seen from this defense so far. If it comes to Mike Zimmer and all the different levels, Isaiah, that this defense is going to have to try and slow down for Detroit, which is the number one key in order to getting a win?
Stop the run. I mean, I feel like we say it all the time, right? We're kind of beating our head against the wall at this point in time, but you need your interior guys to step up. Last week you got a big win out of Linval Joseph. He stepped up in a major way. Mozzie Smith has been playing more consistently for you. You got some unexpected play out of Chauncey Golston I would say Coach Zimmer probably didn't expect that as your 5th defensive end coming in and making an impact and taking the leadership role. So you have to be able to stop these guys from running the ball. I mean, we sit here and almost every year I feel like and talk about how the weakness of this team is the rush defense. And if we were an opposing coach, we would come in and run the ball 40 times. And every team seems to come in there and then all of a sudden they just go away from it, right? So I'm going to say it again, all right? I'm going to be Victor Moan Jr. on this one, okay? I'm going to say it again. If I'm Dan Campbell, I am coming in with these 2 running backs and that offensive line that my boy Nate Dogg can speak on in more detail. I am running the ball 40 times, and I'm going to make your guys that are lower on your depth chart show me that they have the wherewithal to stop our force, and that is our physical force, our physical presence at the line of scrimmage.
You've had success against New York. You've had success against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were okay offensive lines. Now I think you're playing one of the top offensive lines this week. Frank Ragnar's your guy who was leading this, Penny Sewell. They even have a first-round pick over at your left tackle. This is a physical, dominating unit. When things go bad for this team, they depend on their offensive line to do what is necessary, whether it's pass blocking or whether it's run blocking. These guys are the ultimate machine, and we're going to not only have to beat them with our front 5, front 7 guys, we're going to have to dominate them if we have a chance of winning this game.
You got to have some level of domination up front in order to get the job done, because both of these guys present a threat. David Montgomery on one side, Jahmyr Gibbs on the other side. And as you can see here, both guys up over 350 yards of scrimmage this year. They're the only 2 combo to do so throughout the entire season. So with that being said, how do you slow down a 1-2 punch like that when you've got Montgomery, who's more of the bulldozing back? You've got Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a speedster. I mean, it is a tough stop anytime you have the football like that.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you, Kyle, with the personnel that Dallas possesses currently.
Can you please find one?
I don't have one for you. You're going to have to get some unexpected play from some contributors that have not shown up yet in this season. And that's just the reality of the matter. I wish I could say just buckle down and shut down this two-headed monster. This really is the best backfield in the league. I'm going to say it right now. It's the best backfield in the league today in 2024 football season. These 2 guys are fire and ice. This is exactly how you would draw it up. Nate Dogg would love for these 2 guys to be running behind him on the offensive front. And that's because they cannot commit to just the run. Because if you do commit solely to the run, you got 3 receivers and a dog at a tight end that you have to worry about as well. So because this offense is the most balanced offense in the league, you can't fully commit. So you're going to have to get unexpected play from guys that be dominant and look back at their old college film and say, I need you to be that guy today for the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm going to say it, buckle down and get tough. You don't want to say it, but that's one of the opportunities you're going to have is take advantage of when you got a chance to make a play, get an interception, hit the running back for loss. You can't miss. You just got to take advantage of what needs to be done. Believe in yourself, and yes, raise your level up. Your NFL players get paid to do that.
You've blocked for a lot of great running backs in your day. Have you seen a duo like this that's so effective whenever they work one and another?
Nah. This is the first group of guys I've seen where they don't really care who's in there because they both are good third down backs. They both can catch. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's lightning. Oof. I mean, if he get an open hole, it's 90 going north. But the other kid is just as good. I mean, when he was at the Bears, he wasn't as good. What happened? Well, I guess it's the coach.
Well, he got the bag now, too. 2 years, $18 million. Signed that yesterday. Yeah.
He stepped off the plane, they gave him a check. So here you go, buddy. You're about to play the Dallas Cowboys. Here's new money.
Yeah, that works out, right?
Yeah.
That works out. Now, Dallas is trying to find their element of the run game, too. And they found a little bit of it last week by sticking to Rico Dowdle. And that's what we've talked about on this pregame show. Give the guys an opportunity to establish it. Whether it's Zeke, whether it's Rico, let them establish the ground game. That's what they did last week. And what happened? They found some running room. And Rico Dowdle has a little bit more confidence because of that. Let's go and check in with Nicole Hutchison out at AT&T Stadium with Rico Dowdle. And she had a chance to catch up with the new running back one.
Well, Kyle, there was a lot of frustration through the first 4 weeks of the season about the lack of production from this run game, and that came from Mike McCarthy, and it also came from the running backs themselves. And so they all had the same answers for the struggles, though. That was the amount of attempts just weren't there. But they found out that in week 5, this run game runs through Rico Dowdle. He had a career day in carries, in rushing yards, in yards from scrimmage, even added his second receiving touchdown of the year. So I caught up with him earlier this week about how much of a rhythm he feels like he's in and how much that could make an impact going up against his Lions defense today.
I feel like last game for sure, we kind of found that rhythm, and then just got to continue to keep building on that. But for sure, last game, I mean, it worked. It started working for us, and we stuck to it. So
you guys have had a gauntlet as far as defensive lines, run defenses specifically, this whole season. Talking about the Ravens, the Saints, the Steelers, all top 7 run defenses. But now you guys take on the Lions, who are a top 5 run defense. How much have those games prepared you guys for this game?
Like you said, we've been like a gauntlet. Like you said, literally the Ravens. Still, I think the Steelers are like top 3 or something in that run defense. But you know, it's just a challenge. So looking forward to the challenge. And I say each game, like I said, it's a game within the game. We got to play better than we did last week and prepare to take on the Lions.
I've got to ask you this question. What makes it so hard for offenses to run the football against the Lions?
I think for one, they backers play pretty close to the ball, so you're not allowed to stay on your double teams as long when you playing against linebackers like that and a team like that, and so they like to plug it, get you off your double teams, and they definitely load the box up. But we'll see.
Something that I've also noticed is that they use all their defensive linemen, all 4 down linemen. They spread them out wide because they trust that their outside guys are going to get home, especially like a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, who leads the NFL in quarterback pressures and sacks. So where do you all find success within this run game against that defensive line?
We'll have to see. Each week it's a player on the opposite side of the ball that you got to try and eliminate. New York, it was Dexter, a great guy. And then, last week they had TJ Watt, and we were able to find success versus him. He plays kind of like Aiden, but Aiden moves around a little bit more. So just get out there and see and fill it out. 2nd
and goal on the final drive. Mike McCarthy talking in the press conference this week about, it was a little bit of a teaching moment, the fumble. Yeah. What happened, man?
Dude, he made a great play. He jumped before I jumped.
Yeah.
The dude, I think Roberts, number 50, I think.
Atlanta,
he made a great play, but I should have just went right, bounced it outside, and would have been a walk-in. He would have just looked crazy. But dude made a great play, and like you said, definitely a teaching moment. It'll never happen again.
You can catch all of First and 10 with our very own Nicole Hutchison on DallasCowboys.com. It was a great interview getting to catch up with Rico Dowdle and company, especially coming off of the game that he had last week. There's a lot more magnifying glass. There's a circle around 23 in that backfield as teams try and figure out what Dallas is trying to establish and how to slow down Rico Dowdle. Back alongside Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Today, we've talked about the importance on defense of slowing down the weapons. Can Rico Dowdle be a weapon in this offense against this Detroit defense?
As long as they give him the ball consistently, yes.
Okay.
But he's going to do it against a defense that is very confident and plays very hard and is relentless. You talk about Aiden Hutchinson over at the defensive end position. You talk about Anzalone over at the linebacker position. These guys don't stop. They are the Energizer Bunnies. Their motors just don't turn off, right? They run 24 hours a day. And so you got to meet these guys with force. They're not going to lay down. They're not going to give you anything. Anything that you want on the ground, you're going to have to go take it. And that means taking the ball and going right at these cats and hitting them in the mouth.
They're B-plus players, and that's a good thing in the NFL. That means it may not be that ultra-talented guy, that superstar guy, but there are a bunch of guys that know their jobs, know where to line up at. The DJ Ryder's in the middle. He's a very big man. He makes things happen, so you're going to have to be able to stay on your blocks, maintain what you're doing, and just keep a level head.
I like the way you set that up because it's not always about the guys running the football. It's about the guys that are up front blocking for those guys. And this offensive line has not been perfect this year. If anything, they've struggled more so than they have over the last couple of seasons. I mean, Isaiah, or I'll start with you, Nate. When it comes to the offensive line, you've been on some great ones. You've been on some not so great ones. Is it possible to turn the tide in the middle of a season like this and just basically take a significant step forward and do so quickly?
You're talking about our defensive line against their
offensive line.
Our offensive
line. All our offensive line. How do they take a step forward?
Just continue to play, continue to hustle, never give up. Lean on your technique. These guys will give up on their technique too soon, especially our left tackle. Guyton has to lean on his technique. He has long arms. He has great knee bend. Trust in that. He's got good feet. Trust in that. In the center, stay low, get your hands in the proper placement, and everything will be okay. You got to lean on your technique when things get hot and heavy.
There you go. You just heard it from the man himself. There's nothing I can add more to that. He's the man at the offensive line position. But all I can say is that continuity matters. Okay, continuity matters. Trust matters. Belief matters. When you have a young left tackle that's going out there and he's fighting his butt off and trying to figure things out, when he makes some mistakes, just pick him up. Right? Reinstill confidence in them. Let them know that you're not going to turn your back on them. Let them know that you're not disappointed. All those things, right? And then work technique over and over and over again to the point where it is second nature. And then once you start building that chemistry, once you start building that confidence, now all of a sudden you start playing as a unit, and now you can start being a bully because everybody loves a bully offensive line, and the Dallas Cowboys have the personnel to be that.
Since Nate wants to talk so much about that defensive line from the Detroit Lions, since you want to talk about their side of things, I'll let you. Let's talk about it. Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best pass rushers in football now.
Yeah.
But why? Okay, why do you say that?
Yeah.
Why do you say that? He's not one of the. He's leading the league in sacks.
He's relentless. I'll give him that. He's relentless, right? I don't fear Aiden Hutchinson. What I understand and respect about Aiden Hutchinson is, as long as he's on that field, you're gonna get 100 miles per hour. You're getting everything that he has.
You don't fear that?
No, I do not fear that. I respect that. Whenever you have a player who has the willingness to empty the tank every single play, that's somebody to be concerned about, somebody to respect. I don't fear his skill set. I don't fear his speed. I don't fear his moves. I don't fear any of those things. But if you decide to let up at any point in time during that 4-second block when you're trying to pass block, then you have a problem on your hands, because he will make you pay based off of effort alone.
Wow. I fear him. He's a good player. He's a solid player. What I was just saying, he may not be a great player. He may not be your top 5 pass rusher. But when you have a guy that's athletic enough like him, who will line up at a 9 position way out
there,
and run at you 100 miles an hour, give you a bull rush in 2 or 3 plays, that'll give you that same lineman and take it inside, that means he's smart. He plays above the head. No, you may not fear his athletic ability, but you better fear him while he's on that field.
I'm a little bit shocked.
Why?
I'm a little shocked that you don't fear him as one of the top edge rushers in football.
He has 6.5 sacks this year, correct?
That's a lot.
Okay.
And we're 5
4
games
of them
in.
happened in
They're
one
4
game.
games in.
They played 4 games. They had a bye last week.
That means he had 2.5 in another game out of their other 3.
Everything's in context, right?
Yes.
Everything's in context.
There's lots of context.
You faced the #1 defensive end in the league. And he had
Miles Garrett.
Yeah, Miles Garrett. He had a strip sack against you.
Okay. You've also seen T.J. Watt.
You've seen T.J. Watt,
twice.
Defensive Player of the Year. T.J. Watt. When you look at Aiden Hutchinson in comparison to the guys that you face, and in comparison to the guy that you face in practice every day, he's not up there.
He hasn't been in practice.
He's not in the
top 3. What are you talking about?
He's not in the top. He's not Micah Parsons. He's not T.J. Watt, and he's not Miles Garrett.
I would agree
he's not.
with you there. I agree with you.
And you faced those guys already.
But where is he after that? He's very close to that top 3.
I'm not putting him up there.
He's Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I respect him and Anzalone. Those guys I respect. I have a high regard for their motors and their abilities, but they're not going to line up and just beat you one-on-one with skills. It's usually when you're getting beat down.
I'm calling Kyle Brandt. I'm calling Kyle.
Call KB all day. I respect him.
I think Kyle is going to say otherwise.
Hey,
I really do.
I respect this cat. Listen, I really do. However, he is not nowhere near the ballpark that the other guys that you have already faced this year. So being that that's the case, get yourself mentally ready to go face this dude, because you're facing a high-effort guy who's not going to quit. That's what's going to beat you if you get beat at all by this guy.
This is going to be a real.
I hope Dan Campbell ain't feeding this rat to this dude doing brat football.
I was thinking the same thing. This is going to be a weird post-game show if he has 3 sacks today and he just blows up.
Listen,
I mean,
Terrence Steele's faced T.J. Watt. Tyler Guyton's faced Miles Garrett. He's not them.
Okay, I agree there. I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
But he might be 4.
That's like facing.
He might be 4 or 5. I mean, Nick Bosa's up there too, but
I don't know.
He's up there.
I don't know. That's like facing Michael Jordan and then going and facing AI. AI is good, but he's not Jordan.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He's not Jordan.
He's still a Hall of Famer, though.
Good debate.
It is a good debate. It is a good debate. I love it. All right, let's go back to AT&T Stadium. Nick Eatman is joined by Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
Thank you, Kyle. And as always, I'm joined by Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer here, and getting ready to go here against the Lions. This defense, though, every time we turn around, it seems like someone else is going down with an injury. Now it's Eric Kendricks, Deron Bland not going to play. What are you feeling like with your defense here and your chances against the Lions?
Well, we feel good. I mean, this part of the NFL, everybody's got injuries. They got their share on their side, and so do a lot of other teams around the NFL. I know we had a really good week of practice. I know Zim got them really schemed up this week. He knows what we're up against. We got a bunch of young guys who are ready to get in there and, execute on what we want to get done from a strategic standpoint. And I feel just like we did against Pittsburgh. I mean, we were missing, pretty much the same group of guys other than Kendricks. And I know Damone Clark's ready to step up, as are a few others. And Vigil and the group will step up and do something good for us. So, and then offensively, we just feel like with Dak and CD and company and that good offensive line group that we can move the ball.
On Deron Bland earlier in the week, he said he had a real chance to play. Was there a setback, or was it just a feeling of let's hold him for another week, which really means 2 weeks with the bye?
Well, he had a little soreness at the end,
Okay.
and just want to make sure that that he's confident when he goes out there. That thing's 100% when we get him out there, and felt like the short-term gain for the long-term gain wasn't worth it, and just felt like we said that was the right move for him. And our group of corners will go out there just like they've done, just like they did against Pittsburgh and New York, and do a good job.
What do you think the challenge that the Lions bring, especially on their offense? They seem like they've got runners, receivers, quarterback, even tight end, line, all of it there. It's going to be a big challenge for the defense regardless of who you have out there.
Well, first of all, hats off to Dan Campbell. What a great job he's done. I mean, he played here, nothing but respect for what he's doing with his football team. They're physical just like he was when he played. And as you said, that offensive group's tough. They don't have any holes. They got a great quarterback starting with Goff. They got a great run game, a great pass game, a good offensive line, a hell of a tight end. So we'll have our work cut out for us. But, this is the NFL. That's how it works. And we've got a good offense too. And we just got to go toe-to-toe with them. And, when you're playing one of the best in the NFC, then that's what you're up against. And good news is we're right here in front of our home crowd. And I feel like we can go out and execute and play good football.
Last year they tried to get cute, do a tackle-eligible play and reporting and all that. Even last game they played, Jared Goff caught a touchdown. You expect Dan Campbell and those guys to throw everything at this team?
Well, he's aggressive. We all know, and that was his staple last year, and he hadn't lost any of that. I'm sure they'll have all the tricks and all the things that they need to do. But the bigger thing is they're just physical, and they come right at you. They don't need gadgetry, but they sure will use it when it's opportunistic. But we've got our work cut out for us, but feel like we're up for the challenge.
Well, with the playoff game last year and the 2 this year, you certainly want to get that first home win. I know you don't like the losing streak that's happened here. Last thing, what do you think it takes for this team to get off the schneid here at home and get this win?
I just think we've got to execute. We go out there and we got to protect the ball, and we got to get the ball. And then execute the game plans, and good things will happen.
I love it. Protect the ball, get the ball. All right, Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. Kyle, we'll throw it back to you guys.
You see there, Isaiah, Stephen Jones said protect the ball first, which means protect from Hayden Hutchinson. I think that's what he's talking about.
That's exactly what
he's talking about. Aiden Hutchinson and what he does off the edge. That's exactly it. Back here with Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Time now for Call Your Shot. If you're new to the program, Call Your Shot is our way of giving bold predictions. We make a bold prediction for every single game, and we have a bank account of points. We've got a certain number of points. We started with 5. We fluctuated up and down, and we can only bet the amount of points, wager the amount of points that we have. And if you're stuck at the bottom, like Isaiah has been going up and down, then that's exactly where it is. I went.
What kind of predictions are we doing?
Bold predictions.
So you mean you have to take
bold?
risks?
You have to take some risks.
Oh.
This has got to be hard.
Oh, you guys. So for those of you that see that little graph right there, you guys understand. I've been taking risks. Okay, with my bold predictions. Not
the
playing
one
it
he
safe.
got right was like CD Lamb. What was it like? It was Baltimore's going to hand the ball off half of the time.
Over 50% of the time. That's bold.
And they did 70% of the time. Not that bold. Not that bold. But we've got some bold predictions. And as you can see, Barry Church isn't necessarily here with us today. He's out having some fun. But he did have some time to give us a bold prediction for Call Your Shot.
Fellas. As I sit here reflecting, looking over at the Sea of Cortez, I couldn't help but to think of my teammates. Kyle, Isaiah Stanback, Big Nate Newton. And, I wanted to take a week off just to give those guys a chance, to come back in the bold prediction race, seeing as though I'm the leader right now. So I wanted to take a week off to give those guys a chance to get back in the race. But, the people, they found me. They found me, and they wanted Church's bold prediction for this week. And who am I? Who am I to deprive the people of what they want? All right? They call me the people's champ for a reason. So I have to give the people what they want. And this week's bold prediction is that revamped defense, rush defense that Mike Zim has going on will hold the law firm of Gibbs and Montgomery to only 120 combined rushing yards. They're going to hold them under 120 combined rushing yards. And I put 2 points on that. So I had to give the people what they wanted, and that is this week's bold prediction from your very own Barry Church. Oh, and before I leave, this bold prediction was brought to you by Miller Lite, the official cerveza for the Dallas Cowboys. Y'all be easy.
That was nice. That was nice. That was nice. That was nice. That was nice.
I was about to ask why he was drinking apple juice.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was brought to you by Apple Juice. I like the sponsor plug, though. He made it work.
I'm not dealing with this dude.
That was hilarious. I love it.
Wow.
Great prediction. That's a high number, though, Barry. 120, that's
a lot of yardage.
That's a big game to have, even though it's
how
two
he playing
guys.
it safe? You see that?
He is. He's playing it safe. He's putting 2 points on the line. What are you doing this week?
I'm going bold because I'm a bold prediction type of guy. That's why you guys see me at the bottom there because I've been taking risks, son. I'm going with CeeDee Lamb against this defense. Last year he had 227 yards receiving. This year he will get at least 150. That's my bold prediction.
See the
1 point because that's all they allowed me to have.
I just want it to be known. It says 120 right there. You said 150, so I'm counting 150 as the number.
Always go with the fine print. Always go with the fine print.
No,
don't go off what I
said verbally.
Go with the fine print.
It's in writing now that it's 150. Say it with your chest.
Jody didn't change that in the back. It's 120. But I'm gonna go. I stay by 150.
You said 150.
I'll stay by 150. But if I lose, then I'm going down to whatever it said on the text.
Okay, I like it. What do you got this week, Nate?
In order for us to win this game, we have to throw the ball to Jake Ferguson. So please, 7 targets or more for 1 point. Hey, come on, it works.
That's it?
1 point?
Bro, I'm not trying to lose the whole deal.
You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about right here? Bold predictions. 1 point.
Fear that. Fear that.
He up here playing with a fatty pack of points. Fatty pack of points. Picking up
Just
change.
one at a time.
Yeah,
one at a time. Just making it happen. I've got 2 points on the line this week, and I'm also going to go with a Jake Ferguson call your shot because I think he's going to have a phenomenal game. Jake Ferguson for a century mark today. He's going to go over 100 yards receiving in this one. So I think Nate and I might be intertwined a bit because I think if he's going to get those 100, he's going to need it all the way through. 2 points on the line. I'm going to put 2 on the line. I only have 3 remaining, so I'm going to put 2 up there.
That's bold.
100 on the line.
I
Thank you very much.
respect that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, keys to the game. Isaiah, stand back, get us started. How do they get the win today?
Keys to the game is you have to win the trenches. You got to win the trenches on both sides of the ball. The offensive line has to be able to come out there and have some kind of an effective running game. The defensive line has to stop somehow this dual-headed monster that you have, as well as taking on those 3 first-round picks to the offensive line. These guys play as a unit, so you have to step up and take care of the trenches. If you don't, it's going to be a long evening.
Mozzie Smith, dominate or either hold your ground against Ragnar. Frank Ragnar, the center. Mozzie, you are the key to this game. We have to defeat their offensive line.
I love it. I love it. And he was great 2 weeks ago. He was a little bit better last week, just in general, than what he had been previously.
Correct.
He's got to have another great game today, so I like it overall. That's going to do it for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Hope you had as much fun as we did over the last hour previewing the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. Dallas looking for their 7th straight win against the fellas from Detroit. Dak Prescott leading the huddle on their way out in their Navy jerseys at home. It's week 6 of the NFL season. We've got Cowboys game night, Cowboys OT in the first word, presented by Dr. Pepper after the game, but that does it for Nate, for Isaiah, for Nicole, and Nick out at the stadium. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We'll see you next time. Cowboys Pregame Live taking on the Lions.